السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد، فنتابع القراءة في كتاب الأدب المفرد للإمام البخاري رحمه الله. باب عرض الإسلام على الأمة النصرانية، على الأم النصرانية. حدثنا أبو الوليد هشام بن عبد الملك حدثنا عكرمة بن عمار قال حدثني أبو كثير السحيمي قال سمعت أبا هريرة يقول: ما سمع بي أحد يهودي ولا نصراني إلا أحبني. إن أمي كنت أريدها على الإسلام فتأبى، فقلت لها فأبت. فأتيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقلت: ادعو الله لها، فدعا. فأتيتها وقد أجافت عليها الباب. أجافت أي ردت الباب، وقد أجافت عليها الباب، فقالت: يا أبا هريرة إني أسلمت. فأخبرت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقلت: ادعو الله لي ولأمي. فقال: اللهم عبدك أبو هريرة وأمه أحببهما إلى الناس. So this hadith about one, if his mother is a non-Muslim, is a Christian, you should offer Islam and make the da'wah, the call for her. In this hadith, Abu Huraira says he was close to people himself, Abu Huraira. He said anybody that hears me, whether it's a Jew or a Christian, they loved him. But he wanted his mom, he wasn't able to convince his mom to become a Muslim. So he came to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and he told him, make dua for her, supplicate. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam made dua for her that she will accept Islam. So when he came next to visit her and she had closed the door, knocked on her door, she said, "O Abu Huraira, I have become a Muslim." So he was happy. He came to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He told him that. He said, make dua for me and for my mother. He said, "O Allah, your slaves Abu Huraira and his mother, make people love them." So he's here as if explaining two parts. One part that his mother became Muslim because of the barakah of dua Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The second thing, he was himself, Abu Huraira, beloved to people, that people liked him because of the dua of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that's not the only dua that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has made for him. Abu Huraira was later on in Islam. He wasn't among the Muhajirin in Mecca. He wasn't in the first couple of years of Islam. Later on, he became a Muslim. He was from Ahl Sufa. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made dua for him that his memory would be sharp, that everything he hears, he memorizes. So he started doing that, and he noticed this ability in himself. So not only he paid attention to everything Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, he started going around talking to the Sahaba about things that he missed. And that's why he's the most prolific narrator of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when you look at the books of hadith, the number one Sahabi has narrated the sayings and the actions and the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was Abu Huraira, although he was later on in Islam rather than early on. The enemies of Islam say, oh, he has fabricated it. You see Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman and Ali, they were the closest to him. They haven't narrated that number of ahadith that he did. Abu Hurairah, as we said, he collected the hadith. Second of all, he wasn't a man of charge of running the government. Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, they have major responsibility. Abu Hurairah didn't have that responsibility. At some point, he was assigned governor to the eastern part of Arabia, but it's still not like somebody running a whole country. So he was free to sit and teach people. And there's narrations that he will sit before Salatul Jum'ah, narrating the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to his students. They take from him, and then they will write it down and they will propagate it. So the part here that relates to our book about the character that one should be encouraged to call his parents, if they're not Muslim, to call them into Islam and to make dua for them. So you make the personal connection between you and them, but the one that really counts was between you and Allah. Allah is the one going to guide that person. So you do that both efforts. Allah, you ask him to guide that person that you love, and you personally make that connection. باب بر الوالدين بعد موتهما. Now the chapter about being dutiful to your parents after they pass away. حدثنا أبو نعيم حدثنا عبد الرحمن بن الغسيل قال أخبرني أسيد بن علي بن عبيد عن أبيه أنه سمع أبا أسيد يحدث القوم قال كنا عند النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال رجل يا رسول الله هل بقي من بر أبوي شيء بعد موتهما أبرهما؟ قال نعم خصال 4 الدعاء لهما والاستغفار لهما وإنفاذ عهدهما وإكرام صديقهما وصلة الرحم التي لا رحم لك إلا من قبلهما. So here a man came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said, after my parents pass away, is there anything, any actions that are part of being dutiful to my parents? Say, yes, 4 things. One of them, you make dua and istighfar for them. Second one, if they had a promise, a pledge to anybody, you fulfill that promise and pledge. That means including the contracts, including the debts, and so on. And the third thing, you honor their friends. Whoever they were close to your parents, you honor them, you keep kindness towards them as a part of being kind to your parents. And the fourth one, you keep the kinship ties, that it wasn't for your parents, they will not be your kin. So the ones, your relatives from your mom's side, your dad's side, you keep these ties. The closer they were to your parents, the more responsibility you have towards them. So your grandmother, your grandfather, your uncles, your aunts, and so on, and then the extended family. So keeping that, the ties of the kinship. Keeping the ties of kinship is different forms, depending on the situation, your situation, and their situation. Somebody financially able, his relatives are poor, help them financially. Somebody has knowledge, he will teach them. Somebody has some influence within a government or any kind of position, and he can help them when they're in trouble, he will do that. Just checking on them, just being involved in their lives, when there's happiness, when there's sadness, and so on. Just checking on them, calling to them, showing them that he's part of the family, they're welcome all the time. With the limits, some of them are really bad, they're trouble, we try to limit their trouble, but in general, you keep certain connection with your family more than you would keep it with anybody else. حدثنا أحمد بن يونس حدثنا أبو بكر عن عاصم عن أبي صالح عن أبي هريرة قال ترفع للميت بعد موته درجة فيقول أي رب بأي شيء هذا فيقال ولدك استغفر لك. It's a beautiful hadith. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Well, this is narrated from Abu Hurairah himself, but it has hukm al-marfu'. He didn't say Rasulullah said it, but it's about things of the unknown, things that will happen hereafter. And the only way he would know it if he heard it from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So Abu Hurairah says that after the death, the dead person, when his grave, all of a sudden he's seen his degree is upped 1 degree. He's moving forward in the kind of reward he's getting. You see, how is that? That means he's dead. He's already had got it. He said, your son have asked for istighfar for you, asked forgiveness for you. So this is beautiful. You left this dunya, you think there's no more good that you're going to collect, no more positive point. All of a sudden, it's happening because of the children that you have. So that's why investing time and effort, money and everything that you have in your children, that's the biggest investment you can make. In this life, they're going to be the closest to support you if you need any help. But more importantly, after you leave this life, they're going to be carrying your legacy, your good deeds, and they're going to be adding to your account of good deeds after you pass away. حدثنا موسى حدثنا سلام بن أبي مطيع عن غالب قال قال لي محمد بن سيرين. محمد بن سيرين معروف من التابعين، كان اشتهر بتأويل المنامات والرؤى. قال محمد بن سيرين كنا عند أبي هريرة ليلة فقال اللهم اغفر لأبي هريرة ولأمه ولمن استغفر لهما. قال محمد فنحن نستغفر لهما حتى ندخل في دعوة أبي هريرة. So in this hadith, Muhammad ibn Sirin, he was one of the ulama of the tabi'een. He was known to be one that has the interpretation of dreams and visions. Although a lot of the books that refers to him, a lot of them are not authentic. So you've seen books that are printed in the market, Ta'wil al-Ahlam, Ibn Sirin, and so on. A lot of it has unknown narrations to him. But there are some narrations that are authentic to him, and he was a knowledgeable person. He was one of the students of Abu Hurairah. So he said when we would sit and listen to Abu Hurairah, there's one dua he used to say, oh Allah, forgive Abu Hurairah himself and his mother, and for anybody that asks forgiveness for them. And said, so we, his students, will always make istighfar for Abu Hurairah and his mother, so his dua will include us. They came for his dua. Abu Hurairah was a Sahabi, a knowledgeable Sahabi, very close to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So his dua more likely to be accepted by Allah than their dua, although they are good people. But he's closer to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so his degree is higher. So they will ask istighfar for Abu Hurairah and his mother. And we ask Allah to forgive Abu Hurairah and his mother. So his dua will include this, inshallah. حدثنا أبو الربيع حدثنا إسماعيل بن جعفر قال حدثنا العلاء عن أبيه عن أبي هريرة أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إذا مات العبد انقطع عنه عمله إلا من 3: صدقة جارية أو علم ينتفع به أو ولد صالح يدعو له. هذا الحديث المعروف. And this hadith, well known to most students of knowledge, Abu Hurairah reports that Rasulullah ﷺ has said that when a person dies, all his actions cease except 3 kinds. 1, ongoing charity. So somebody built a masjid, somebody built a school, helped people to get a well of water, a project that keeps giving. So after he leaves, his accounts of good deeds keep going. So there was one kind. The other kind علم ينتفع به. Knowledge that is beneficial to people. So anybody who learned it, acted upon it, and distributed it will benefit. So that's what the kind of ilm Rasulullah ﷺ distributed, the Sahaba, the ulama, Imam al-Bukhari, and so on. Everybody distributing this knowledge, that will be ongoing charity. Every time we read from Bukhari, we say, Rahimahullah. Allah have mercy on him. So this is an ongoing charity. He left us hundreds of years ago, and his good deeds are still going. Or, so the third kind, a good pious child that keeps making dua and supplication for that person. So one should aim to have at least one category or more, that you have an ongoing investment that after your death. It's like people when they invest, they start have extra money. They want to invest in something that keeps giving. And you see people who work in the stock market, there are certain stocks that give dividends and has more value than stocks that doesn't give dividends. Some stocks is just you wait for their price to go up and you sell it with profit. But some of them give you dividends. For every share it gets this amount of money. And that keeps going, give you more value. So these are the kind of thing give you. There are other ahadith give you other categories. So about somebody who made a will that helped people and establishing and help people and so on. So the idea is an ongoing good deed that you leave behind you that will be beneficial to others. And the bad deeds also the same. If somebody started a Buddha innovation in this religion, or something bad, a bad habit, and people start following that person, after his death, he's gonna still be collecting bad deeds. And we know that the first person that killed any human being were one of the sons of Adam. And every time a human being killed another human being, that first killer, he get a copy of that sin. He started something. And the same thing for the Khawarij, the rebels that declared some of the Sahaba kafir, they attacked Uthman and killed him and so on. So anybody you see nowadays an extremist that doesn't like anything in Muslims, they call them kafir, their leaders, their ulama, the common people, and start killing right and left. The people who started it from the beginning, they're getting copies of it. Those who wanted to introduce philosophy and logic against the revelations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and try to contradict it, anybody follow their full steps will be the same thing. Anybody that starts any kind of innovation. So that's when you be careful that your sources of knowledge, your sources of action and da'wah and so on are authentic back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam through authentic means, through ulama that are well known and so on. Because if you teach some people wrong, after you leave, that wrong still keep on going and keep propagating. So be careful. It can go either way, positive or negative. حدثنا يسرة بن صفوان حدثنا محمد بن مسلم عن عمرو عن عكرمة عن ابن عباس أن رجلا قال يا رسول الله إن أمي توفيت ولم توصي أفينفعها أن أتصدق عنها؟ قال نعم. هذا الحديث يستدل به كثير من العلماء على أن الميت ينتفع من العمل الصالح بعد موته، لكن منهم من قيدها بأن يكون ابنه، لأن العمل الصالح للابن يعود للوالدين، ومنهم من جعلها عامة، أي شخص تصدق عن ميت كان ذو قرابة أم لا أنه ينفعه، والله أعلم. So in this hadith, Ikrima, one of the known students of Ibn Abbas, he was one of the known tabi'een, he was very known for the tafsir of Quran. So he reported that Ibn Abbas said that a man came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and told him that my mother had passed away and she didn't leave a will after her. Would it help her if I make sadaqah on her behalf? I give charity on her behalf. He said, yes, it would. And the ulama interpreting this hadith have two positions. One, make it restricted. It has to be a child of that person. when they do good deeds, then the parents who taught them the good, that will help them. And some make it general. Any Muslim give the charity on behalf of any other Muslim, regardless how close or far away that Muslim, that the charity would benefit them. And some even expanding it to reading Quran or doing other forms of good deeds. So there are two schools here. One very narrated, very narrow and very specific, and one is very general. You find very prominent ulama on either sides of the debate that when you do good charity on behalf of another person, does it help them or not after they passed away if they're not directly involved in it? Let's say you have a cousin that you loved, he passed away. You read Quran, one khatma of Quran, and you're trying to give the charity of that recitation of Quran to that dead person. Some of the ulama says yes, it would reach him, and some say no, unless you are a child related to that person, it would not. Some made it very specific, only for charity. You give donation, you feed some hungry people, you establish something on the behalf of somebody that passed away, that it might help. I would say go ahead and do it. If it's not accepted for that person, at least it will be accepted for you. And if it's accepted for you, then your dua for him will be more likely to be accepted. So if you have a person you loved, a friend, like a relative or something like this that passed away, and you want to do charity and you won't do part of that charity on their behalf, go ahead and do it. There's no harm in that, and it might help him directly or indirectly. Directly by Allah accepting it on his behalf, indirectly accepting you, and then your dua for him will be accepted. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam.
Some people, when a person passes away, they have ta'ziyah, and then they decide we're all going to read Quran together or separately for that person, or they read specific ayats from the Quran. Is this going to be beneficial for them, or is it just like
so this is bordering Buddha. So when after somebody passes away, people gather in the masjid before Maghrib, after Maghrib, something like that. They sit together and they have sometimes the Quran, 30 juz', there are 30 people, each one assign one juz' to read it and to gift the reward of this recitation to the dead person. It's not known any of the Sahaba who has done that. So one individual doing it for somebody he likes, it might be accepted. Group of people making as a habit every time somebody dies, they sit in the masjid doing it, this becomes a Buddha, becomes a ritual. Ta'ziyah in Islam, when somebody dies, they are, you show sympathy to them anywhere, anytime, in a means that be beneficial to them. There's no specific, somebody would not sit in the house or in a masjid, or some countries they hire a tent and put it in a public place in the neighborhood. They bring somebody who recites Quran, or they play a tape of Quran, sit together, they pass some coffee around, sometimes some sweets, and then they make dua or read Quran and so on. This is not part of Islam. But this is more becoming as a habit. So this is social events. It's not becoming as a worship to Allah, but this is how they show their grief and support to one another. So the intention should be clear, that I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm going to my cousin who lost his wife or his son or whatever. I'm showing sympathy to him. He's got larger group of people, it's not gonna fit his house. So he expanded it to that tent outside in this neighborhood, and they're sitting together. I'm showing and showing my sympathy. I'm spending some time there. While I'm there, I might be making dua or reading Quran and so on. But making it clear that this is not an Islamic ritual. This is not ibadah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the same thing with weddings, the things that people do in weddings, the way the weddings the Sahaba used to conduct, different than things that we do nowadays, the same thing and so on. So one should be clear what is social and what is religious. So Most what's happening in funerals nowadays is social, not religious. The closer you can stay with the sunnah and keep it religious, the better it is. It's fighting uphill battle. I remember when my father passed away, we tried to keep it as much as possible. You cannot do that. People will come and tell you, okay, when are you going to have the ta'ziyah? Is it which place, which time, and so on. So I want to keep it sunnah. Anytime you see me, say, no. We're going to come from far away. We'll make sure a certain place, certain time. There's like 20 or 30 people coming with us, and the other group might have another 40 or 50, and so as they end up, okay, we're going to be making the stand. You come and show your condolence. But we didn't bring a sheikh. We didn't play Quran. We had masahif. Who wants to read Quran? They can read Quran, make dua, they make the dua. And once you're there, the sunnah, not the family of the deceased, should be offering people food and drinks. The sunnah should be other people bringing them. When Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, when he died in the battle of Mu'tah, he was the leader of the army, and Rasulullah ﷺ loved him a lot. Ja'far ibn Talib was his cousin. He was the brother of Ali ibn Abi Talib. And he was very courageous person. So when he died, Rasulullah ﷺ told his family, while in Medina, the battle happened north of Arabia, close to the borders of Jordan nowadays. And it takes them close to a month to get the news. On the spot that day, he told his family that he died. And he told him about Abdullah ibn Ruwaha that died and Zayd ibn Harith that died, the three leaders. They were forced with an army that was 10 to 20 times more in numbers and more prepared against them. So the leaders took the lead so the army would not be defeated. They stood in front, they held the main banner of the army, and of course the attack happens to the carrier of the banner. So if all of them showed courage and they fought until they died, shuhada fi sabilillah. And we can say definitely about them shuhada because Rasulullah ﷺ told us that they are shuhada going to Jannah. And he has told them that this person should be the first one. If he dies, this person should carry the flag. If he dies, this person carries the flag. So as sign three of them died. And the army now all the time become leadless. So Khalid ibn al-Walid, he stepped forward. Being an experienced military man, he led a lot of expedition before, first against Islam, then for Islam. So he took the raya, organized the Muslims, and he managed to save the army from being slaughtered because they were at the brink to be finished. The books of history telling us about his genius in managing it. So he started when fighting, assigning the groups of fighters different positions. And then at night he will send some of them far away, a couple of horses, they dragged a lot of branches and objects behind him from far away. You see a large amount of dust. You think there's like 100 people coming from this area, 200 people coming from, and he will be sending like 5 or 10 people and so on. And then at nighttime, he doubled the amount of fire that they burn for the soldiers to keep warm and cook and so on. So the Romans gave him the impression that there was a large reinforcement coming for the Islamic army. And now next day, they're seeing different faces because he reassigned the fighters. Those who were on the right side, put them on the left, those in the middle, and then the back, and so on. So next day they come, they see fresh faces, large numbers, all enthusiastic. They felt, okay, now the army got really bigger. He showed them a big fight, and then when night comes, he kept the fires going, and he took the whole army at night and left. Next day, they wake up, and they're waiting, they didn't see anything. They start sending their people to the lookouts. They see the camp is empty. They went south back. See, that cannot happen. They have large reinforcement. It must be a trap. They want us to follow them, and they have a trap. They're going to be trapping us, and they're going to attack us. We're not going to fall for this. We're going to stay here. So they managed to bring the whole army back. So when they came back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Rasulullah was telling them everything that happened before the news came. This is the wahi coming from him. Jibreel was telling him that. And then when he came, a lot of people called Khalid Walid a runaway, a coward. He said, you ran away from the fight. So I said, no. أنتم الكرار ولستم الفرار. You're the one who attack, you're not the one who retreat. So the ayah that one should not retreat when facing the enemy except for a fighting purpose or to join the Muslim forces. In this case, joining Rasulullah ﷺ was the right decision. They didn't do it as a cowardness. They wanted to prepare. And next year, when Rasulullah ﷺ has the Battle of Tabuk, he prepared, he went to fight the Romans. At that time, the Romans, they were defeated in that battle. So that's part of it. So back to Ja'far ibn Abi Talib. So he was one of the leaders when he was killed, and then his body, when the army came, they confirmed it. Rasulullah ﷺ, he told people, bring the family of Ja'far, bring them food, what they have, the calamity that hit them is beyond their ability now to focus on worldly matter, to cook and feed, and there will be larger people coming and showing their condolences and support for them. So people started cooking and providing for them and their visitors, rather than the family of deceased providing for others. And that's how the sunnah should be. So people should contact the family of deceased. Okay, I'm gonna be helping you setting up the tent. I'm gonna be bringing the coffee. I'm gonna bring the water. I'll bring the food. I'm gonna so on. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. In certain cultures, it's become taxing. They lost their loved ones, and now they have to organize all of this, plus the money they spend on it. So one should try to keep it as close to the sunnah as possible. As I said, sometimes fighting an uphill battle. Yes, brother.
I just like to add one point, like when people start innovating, right, like they become very creative about innovations.
Yes.
So back in India, like previously having Quran, like 30 parts reading and blessing the person who passed away. Nowadays, like they're hiring people to read the Quran. Like
Yes.
they go to a madrasa where the Kufas are there, and they tell like we will donate money if you read like 30 Qurans, like hundreds Qurans and stuff like that. So people are like innovating on top of innovation and
Yes, yeah.
become very creative.
Sometimes what it could be part of making donation, like a charity on the behalf of your beloved one. A school is a good cause for the charity. It should be not for the recitation of Quran. You say, my loved one has passed away, I'm gonna make a donation in their behalf to this madrasa, the teaching students of knowledge, but you shouldn't make it conditional. I want 30 khatma of Quran, is buying certain number of services. Shouldn't be that way. It should be making general. They showing their appreciation. The school said, okay, let's have our students, they're gonna dedicate their next recitation for that deceased person, we'll make dua for him. But it shouldn't be like a trade-off. I'm buying 30 khatma, 10 khatma, 100 khatma, or whatever it is. It shouldn't be. Yeah.
The hadith of Abu Huraira, where he said about the parent passed away and he ends up in Jannah, and then his rank is raised and it's bistaghfari walladhi kalak. Is it fair to say, accurate to say that whenever a companion speaks about the ghaibiyat without doing marfu' to the Prophet automatically takes the hukm of
Yeah, this is the general الموقوف الذي لا يعلم إلا من رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم له حكم المرفوع. That anything that's only narrated by the Sahabi without saying I heard it from the Prophet, but the only way possible for him to know it through the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, then it's considered as if he said, I heard it from him, or he said it there. The tricky part is sometimes distinguishing between the opinion of the Sahabi or the actual narration. So you will see the opinion sometimes in matters that can take opinions. And the ulama will say, oh, وَهَذَا قَوْلُ أَبُو هُرَيْرَةَ. It's like that the people, the Muslims will come on a day of Akhirah, غر محجلين من أثر الوضوء. They will be bright, their foreheads and the limbs, hands and feet from the traces of the wudu. فمن استطاع منكم أن يطيل غرته فليفعل. So whoever is making his ghurra, his forehead brighter and wider space, let him do it. The last part is the saying of Abu Hurairah. So the first part, he's narrating from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's saying that my ummah, my followers, I can tell who they are. He asked him, if you had large group of horses and all of them are dark horses, all of a sudden you had a group of them that have whiteness on their limbs and the forehead. Can you tell your horses from others? He said, yes, this is my ummah. I can tell who are my ummah. They're bright from the areas of the wudu they make in their hands, feet, and faces. So Abu Hurairah, he added from himself, then I would encourage people to make their ghurra bigger. That means when they're wiping, he used to wipe larger and bigger areas. And so the ulama said, okay, this part is his opinion. And the reason they were comfortable with saying it, because other Sahaba narrated the same hadith with that last part. So that again tells you the accuracy of the ulama in narrating the hadith. So it's very specific, and they went into little details like this. So you'll be sure when there's a saying that this is an authentic hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is a saying. This is his teachings, like what Abu Hurairah said here about the person, his ranks raising up, that's his teaching. Although he said this is not his words, but these are the teaching of Rasulullah. So he wouldn't know. I mean, we don't know what happens after death. The only thing we know about it, what we read in the Quran, what Rasulullah sallam has told us. These are things that you cannot logically deduce it and say, oh, this must have happened. We didn't know. Yeah. Well, yeah. So inshallah we'll move on. We're talking about the Islamic creed, the basics and tenets of faith in Muslims. We're first establishing what is the correct way, what is the principles of belief of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, people who follow the Sunnah, the way of Rasulullah sallam, and stay with the mainstream groups of Muslims. And after we finish that details, we're going to start talking about the sects that deviated from Islam and how they deviated and how far away they are from the mainstream Islam. So we're still talking about Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and we said that they have different names. So Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah is the name that they were known for. Some will call them Ahlul Hadith, those who follow the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Some will say Ahlul Athar, those who follow the authentic narration. Some will give Ahlul Salaf al-Salih, those who follow the righteous predecessors of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The name itself is not as important as the beliefs and the actions, the saying, things that they really do. Because the names can have different meanings for different people, different times. So it doesn't matter, although a lot of people will insist on a certain name to declare their faith, but sometimes they fake it, where they take a well-known group like Ahlul Salaf, Ahlul Hadith, and you have now all of a sudden an extremist group like Al-Qaeda and so on. They created a group, Al-Jama'ah Salafiyya Al-Muqatila. So they say this is a Salafi group that are fighting. Well, I mean, Khawarij. It has nothing to do with the Salaf. They took the creed in Allah and His names and so on. They took the tenets of the Salaf al-Salih and Ibadah. But when it comes to matter of takfir and fighting and so on, they adopted the Khawarij and they say this is Jama'ah Salafiyya al-Muqatila. The same thing like Bin Laden and so on. He tried to claim that he's following the way of the Salaf. He was following the way of Khawarij. His teachers were Jama'at al-Jihad al-Islami. Al-Jihad al-Islami, offshoot of Al-Akhwan al-Muslimin. And the first offshoot they have, Jama'at al-Hijra wal-Takfir. From Jama'at al-Hijra wal-Takfir, the ones who declared everybody around them kafir, came the group, well, this is not a good name that we call everybody kafir. Let's call it Jihad. And they declare, okay, this is Islamic Jihad group. And then the ones that Zawahiri and his people that started organizing Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan to fight people, and said, well, both names don't seem good. Let's say we are Salafi, basically. Just take the good name. We're following the good predecessors. So that's what I'm saying. At this point, you need to be careful. The name by itself, it has historic value, but you need to look at their actual belief and actual deeds. Because people will mask their deviated beliefs, their deviated actions under the mask of something acceptable. جهود أهل السنة والجماعة في خدمة الإسلام. So when we're looking at why is this group of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah important? Because they are the mainstream group of Muslims. They are the ones who propagated Islam. They're the ones who led the fighting against the Persians and the Romans. They're the established Khilafah al-Rashida, they established Khilafah al-Umayyah, Khilafah al-Abbasiyah. Despite all the political rumbling that was around them, the foundation was on Aqidat Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And they kept it propagating. Anytime you have a group of deviation, when they lead any part of the Islamic nation, the first thing they do, they start fighting other Muslims. Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, whenever they have a group, they organize, they start fighting external enemies, protecting the Muslims and propagating Islam. Ahlul Buddha, whenever they get power, they start fighting Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah and trying to deviate them from the truth. So the first, they're the actual spreaders of Islam. When they have to fight enemies, they have to sacrifice and so on. They are the actual spreaders of knowledge. If you cancel the knowledge that came from Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, there's no Islam. Who narrated the Quran? The Sahaba of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Their students, Tabi'een, Tabi'een. Who narrated the Hadith? The same thing. Who gave you the explanation of the Quran? Who told you about the fate? Who told you about the unseen, the what happens in the grave, what happens in resurrection? All of them, Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. So if you cancel their effort, then it's canceling the whole Islam. And that's what you find. The enemies of Islam, they're trying to discredit the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam or specific group of them, and they are the ones who propagated the most knowledge. This way they can create their own innovation and they come up with a whole new religion claiming they are followers of this religion. If you don't have the effort of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, religion would have been decaying every time somebody innovates something. At the end, you're going to have a freak of a religion rather than the complete religion that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has left to his ummah. When the first group that tried to splinter from Islam after the death of Rasulullah sallam, the first thing was financial. They said, we're not going to pay zakat. Zakat, that's something we paid to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's dead, we're not paying it to anybody else. Abu Bakr said, no, you're going to pay it. If it was even a small camel that he used to pay to Rasulullah sallam, if you don't pay it, I'm going to fight you on it, because this is the religion. And Umar was worried. We have groups that totally abandon Islam, and we have a group say we'll do everything in Islam except the zakat. We're not going to pay zakat. And Abu Bakr says it's the same. Islam is one. You cannot abandon any piece of it. And he was right. He stayed fast. He fought them. At the same time, all these rebellion tribes, until they all came back to, yes, Islam is one of it, and they followed it. And then we have the efforts of Imam al-Sunnah, Ahmad ibn Hanbal, when the innovation in creed, when people start saying, oh, Quran is not the words of Allah, it's a creation like any other creation of Allah. And Ahmad ibn Hanbal say, no, these are the words of Allah. His words are superior to any creation, including your logic, your brain, and whatever. The text that comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is superior. Your logic is to understand it and practice it, not to accept it or not. So when somebody says, oh, this is not logical, how would Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would go to the seven heavens? I remember 15, 20 years ago, someone told me, well, once they leave the atmosphere of Earth, oxygen will be low. Wouldn't we suffer hypoxia? It's like, we talk about a miracle. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He would not provide them with means that He tried to say, oh, it was a dream. It's going to come. And the whole journey was a dream. Because physically, one cannot leave the atmosphere of Earth without oxygen, he will suffocate. We talk about Allah, the one who put these laws. He said that we need oxygen for our body to function. He can change the laws, and He can do it for whatever purpose. We cannot physically reach these distances with our knowledge, with our ability. Allah can make it happen. The fastest thing we have is the speed of light. The closest stars are millions of light years away. That means if you're traveling the speed of light to get to the nearest star, it can get you 1,000,000 years. Well, there's something faster than that, the will of Allah. It says be, and it happens. Kun fayakun. It's like, how are you going to use a logic when you're talking, this is beyond normal, this is a miracle. This is what makes it a miracle. If you start describing for them, oh, so you put him in a rocket and they give him a helmet, put him on oxygen and say, oh, okay, how fast is it? How is it possible? What kind of... No, we're telling you it's a miracle. The al-buraq, the beast that Allah has provided for him, every time between one footstep and to another footsteps is the horizon. Is by the time he strikes one, is beyond the horizon, something faster than the speed of light. So that's where Quran, the text that comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is superior to all logic. The logic is to understand it and practice it, not to accept it and to reject it. So if it wasn't for Imam Sunnah, Ahmad ibn Hanbal, staying fast on that belief that he inherited from the students of the Sahaba, who they inherited from Rasulullah sallam, we would have nowadays have a religion, you read the text, you understand it the way you want, what you accept you take, what you don't you leave, and we're going to have everybody calling themselves Muslim, everybody practicing different traditions, and they call themselves, we're the same, we're following Quran. It's like now what you see people with Christians following the gospel. Each one understands it their own way, and some will be dancing and singing and jumping up and down. Some will be reciting in Latin, some be reciting, I don't know, in Greek, whatever language, and everybody having their own tradition, their own religion, and they all say, we're following the book, the Revelation. We have the Old Testament and New Testament. So the effort of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they kept it real, they kept it to the exact teaching of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the way his companions understood it and practiced it. The differentiation between Tawheed al-Uluhiyya wal-Rububiyya wal-Asma' wal-Sifat. So a lot of people understand monotheism, Tawheed, as declaring there is one creator of the universe, and stop there. Once you believe there's one creator, then this is Tawheed, you're a Muslim. This is 1/3 of the belief. Tawheed al-Khaliq, Tawheed al-Rububiyya. So there's one creator, one provider. But when it comes obligation, who should I obey? Who tells me what's right and wrong? Who tells me the legislation? Who tells me about how should be prepared and so on? who is the true God, deity that I honor, I follow, I believe. Tawheed al-uluhiyya. This is the part that people have shirk in it, that they associate partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The mushrikeen of Arabia, of Quraysh and other, they did not reject that there is one creator. وَلَئِنْ سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ لَيَقُولُونَ اللَّهُ. If you ask them who created heavens and earth, they say Allah. They knew that. They believed in it. They believed there's only one creator in heaven. They did not believe in a Son and a Holy Spirit and so on. They believed in one. However, when it comes to obedience and following and loving and fearing and so on, they had intermediaries. These idols, they worshiped. It started what Rasulullah ﷺ had told us, the first people who worship idols on earth were the followers or the people of Noah wasn't far away from Adam. So we're talking a few generations after Adam. They started first, they have Waddan wa Suwa'an wa Ya'utha wa Ya'uqa wa Nasra. So they're 5 good people. They were teachers of knowledge. They used to sit different parts of town. This one have a group of students teaching them, this one and this one. So after they died, Shaitan came and he's trying to want to introduce to them polytheism, shirk. And he told them, these are very good people. You lost a lot by losing them. Honor them by assigning some kind of sign to where they were teaching. So this is the place of Ya'uth, Ya'uq, Nasr, and so on. They assigned these places to them. The generation after them, he came to them, see your ancestors, they honor their people. They have a place assigned to them. Well, you need to worship Allah in this place in their honor. And they were better than all of you. So ask them to be an intermediary between you and Allah. And then he started coming, okay, let's build a statute in their honor. Let's make offering to that. Let's establish a holiday in their honor. Let's do certain rituals. Let's slaughter animals. Let's do this. And then it became a big business. It's like a church. You have now people keeping the idol. They take offering, they spread it, and so on. So this is the polytheism. The Islam, the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they insisted that Tawheed is not about who creates. It's about who you worship, who you follow. When Allah has told us about Christians and Jews that their polytheism by taking their rabbis and their priests as gods beside Allah. And one of the Christians was sitting there, Uday ibn Hatim, he said, we didn't worship them. He thought, I was a Christian. I knew that we worshipped only Allah. He said, didn't they tell you what is forbidden? And you thought it's forbidden and stopped doing it. And they told you what is right to do, what is right, and it's not in your revelation. They told you things that's not in your revelation. You obeyed them? He said, yes, this is making them gods. So, Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they insisted that the only one that legislates is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right and wrong is declared by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then when it comes to the names and characters of Allah, there is no part in logic for it. These are things of unknown. So the only way we know about it was came to us through revelation. The Quran, the words of Allah, the Sunnah of Rasulullah, what he learned from Jibreel and what Allah have shown him. So beside these two aspects, you cannot talk about the names and attributes of Allah. People started making logic. Oh, if it is a God, then his knowledge should be superior to any knowledge. Okay, so we accept that he's all hearing, all seeing, all powerful. But we don't accept that he has life, because life means there's a beginning, there's an end, it can die. So if Allah describes himself as alive, we're going to reject that description, because alive means you can die. And Al-Ilm say, no. Allah describes himself as alive, he's alive. But لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ, he's like nothing else. He's not life like us, that has a beginning, has an ending, and needs a means to sustain his life. He's beyond that. And the same thing for every name, every attribute of Allah. There's no part of logic in that. And the same thing when they came to Qadar. Qadar is one of the most difficult concepts for anybody who believes in a creator that controls the universe. That there is destiny, there's fate, there's one in control. Everybody knows to understand everything. If they don't understand it, there's nobody in control. When a disaster happens, a flood happens, a lot of innocent people die. If there is a God, He wouldn't allow that. How would you know? Do you have all the information needed to make judgment that this incident was a positive or negative incident? You need all the information to judge that. It's like nowadays when I hear about what's happening in the war in Sudan. There are two parties warring. Who's right, who's wrong? I don't have the information to make that judgment. How would I judge? I say, oh Allah, curse this group and support this group. I don't know who's fighting who for whatever reason. Oh Allah, reconcile with them for the best of Muslims in general Islam. I don't know. So I cannot make a judgment without the information needed. When somebody, you bring him from the Amazon, you see us, civilized people, we pick up babies, take them to doctors, poke them with needles, and say, we're savages. Why are we doing this to our kids? Make them cry, inject them with chemicals, and for no apparent reason. They don't have the knowledge that, okay, if I don't do that, they get measles, they get mumps, and they get meningitis, and they die, or get paralyzed, and so on, that these are means of helping them. If you don't have that information, that action looks cruel to you. So who are we to judge the action of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We don't have that information. We don't need that information. There are certain things Allah has explained it to us as a way, yes, there are certain things you see, you think it has no purpose behind it, or it's cruel and negative, but there's something good out of it. And we have the examples in Surah Al-Kahf, when Musa followed Al-Khadir, when Musa was asked, who's the most knowledgeable person on earth? Musa thought, I am the one. He's getting the revelation. Allah spoke to him directly and so on. He didn't know anybody who was more knowledgeable. So Allah revealed to him, no, there is a person, Al-Khadir, he lives in that area. Go and learn from him. So he takes his student, Yusha ibn Nun, and he goes in a journey. Allah gave him a sign, you're going to have a dead salted fish with you. The minute it comes alive, that's when you're going to find that person. So they start walking days and so on. They get hungry, they get thirsty. Oh, let's eat the fish. So where's the fish? You should, oh yeah, we were in that area. It came alive and it ran into water. So why did you tell me? Oh, Shaitan made me forgive. They go back to the area. They found Al-Khadir. They go with Al-Khadir. Al-Khadir tells him, I have one condition for you. Whatever you see, don't ask me why. He said, okay. So he goes in, the first thing he does, he goes in these poor fishermen, he goes in their little boat. The minute they're in the middle of the sea, river, whatever water they're crossing, he starts making a hole in it. He's poking a hole in it. He said, why are you doing that? You're gonna ruin the boat for them, you might drown, and they're helping us? He said, I told you don't ask me. He said, beg your pardon, I'm not gonna do it. He goes in an area, he sees a kid running around, he grabs the kid and kills him. He said, he killed an innocent boy for no reason. He said, didn't I tell you, don't ask me. He said, if I ask you ever again, that's it, we part. Musa said his mind, I'm not gonna do it. Then they go on, move on to the next village, and now all the sustenance is gone, they need water, they need food, they need help. And the people of that village were mean people. They did not honor the tradition of taking care of those who are passing by. They didn't offer them anything. And then he found a little house, the walls crumbling, and he started building it. And Musa lost it. He said, come on, they didn't offer us anything, and you're fixing a wall for, at least ask him for something in return. Give us some water. I said, that's it, we're parting here. But I'm gonna tell you why I did that. Then he told them the boats, there was a king. He was now establishing a fleet, any seaworthy boat. He's gonna confiscate it and add it to his fleet. These are poor people. If you take the boat from them, they die. if you make a defect in it, they can manage. While they walk in, they can get the water out of it, but still can fish. But the king, when he see it, there's a hole in it, he's not going to be seaworthy for him to put soldiers in it. He's going to leave him alone. That now made sense. Without that information, that action had no sense. The second thing was for the boy. He said, Allah has revealed that this boy is going to be a distress and disgrace for his parents. He's going to hurt them and everybody around them. And he's going to reach probably committing a crime that deserves to be killed for. And Allah ordered him to kill him, and he would replace him with a better son for them. And then the third one about the wall, that it belonged to two orphans. Their father had hid some money, treasure underneath. If the wall crumbles now, it's showing they're too weak to protect their money, to be taken away from them, from these mean people. But if I fix it, it might save them for another 5-10 years. Now they're strong enough. If the wall crumbles, then they can defend and make use of it. Their father was a good person. Allah protected them. So it was given us as knowing that the qadr of Allah has a reason for it, but He doesn't have to explain it for us. So anytime something happens, you don't need to find the reason behind it. It's just, this is Allah's will. What are we ordered in this situation to do? So there, yes, everything on the will of Allah, but there are actions we're responsible for. There's a flood coming. Oh, this is the will of Allah. We said, those who will survive, survive. Those who drown, drown. No, you build a dam, you protect yourself, you run away from the flood, and so on. There's a fire. Whatever it is, there are actions you're responsible for. It might work, might not work for you. Sometimes you'll be able to stop whatever bad thing happens. Sometimes you're not. You're responsible for the action. You cannot put the logic behind why Allah is letting the Zionists killing all these Muslims. They've been doing it for 70 years. They came, they've done the massacres, they've done genocide in 48, driven the people away from their land to create a land for them. Then they've done it again, 67, the same people who were moved out of their land in 48, when they went after them. They had it, and now they're doing again for them, the people of Gaza who left their lands from 48 and 67, and they're now refugees in Gaza. Now they're going after the same people. Why will Allah allow that? Allah has His own reason. He doesn't have to explain for us. Our responsibilities according to our ability. Governments should protect them. Individuals, if you can help individuals, you make dua for them and support them, whatever means that's positive, not negative, you do it. But the end results, Allah has a plan for it. If you think about it, when 1400 years ago, when Rasulullah ﷺ told the Sahaba that there will be time you're going to be fighting the Jews and you're going to be defeating them. And people thought, what Jews he's talking about? They had two main places. One was Medina. They defeated Medina. The biggest city they have, Khaybar, they defeated. There's no more. They have no other places of strength at that time. They wouldn't understand. In Quran, it told us, فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ الْآخِرَةِ جِئْنَا بِكُمْ لَفِيفًا. When the second time comes for the Jews to have the upper hand, we bring you together from all parts of universe. And that's what's happening. That's what we're seeing. It's fulfillment what's in Quran. So we know that this is, now, when is going to be the big battle? When is going to be the victory? And so on. I don't know. Maybe my time, my children's time, my grandchildren's time. Could be another 100 years, 1,000 years. Who knows? Our responsibility, do as much as good as we can. Fulfill the orders of Allah. We make nasr. We support Allah. We get the support from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's our part. But when is the winning happen? Allahu A'lam. The Crusaders stayed for 3 generations in Jerusalem. They were eventually defeated and they left. Muslims, on the other hand, when they went to Andalus, nowadays Spain, they stayed there, I don't know, 600, 800 years. They stayed there, became Muslim land. But then they forgot the orders of Allah. They indulged in life. They started having parties, drinking, fighting one another, and so on. They lost the land. They were kicked out of it. So the support of Allah has means to it that we have to follow. It can happen our time. It could happen other times. So, qada wal qadar, we have to believe in it. So, no logicking or rationalizing. There's certain things we can understand, things we don't understand. There is Allah, there's a day of judgment. People don't understand. They cannot understand and say, there's no way there is a God that allows this. Well, because you consider your brain is a God that will judge or understand everything, it will never happen. Each one of us has our own logic, our own way of thinking. Two human beings cannot agree on everything. You find the philosophers of the Greek, each one has his own school, and their students have their own way. Everybody, and all of them were using logic and philosophy and so on. You find the communist. Marx has one idea, Lenin has one, Mao Zedong has another, Fidel Castro had another, and all of them, they're trying to follow the same communism. They did their own way of doing it. All of it turned bad. But that's, human beings are not the same. The only one that has the full right, the full wisdom is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Okay. Back to the topic of Aqidah. There's some scholars out there that claim that Aqidah is a science like fiqh and certain matters where the ulama have room for ijtihad, and the hakim can do his hukum, and if he gets it right 2 rewards, he gets wrong 1 reward. How do you refute this claim that Aqidah is the same thing as fiqh and just do ijtihad?
In general, Aqidah, there has never been disagreement around it. So this is different from ijtihad and fiqh. So you might have some disagreement about people, how you put your hand, how you wash it, what amount of donation you make, about charity and so on. They might have matters of Aqidah. All the Sahaba has one belief. All their students and so on. Ulama Sunnah Jama'ah never disagreed on that. The only disagreement you see, like one of the ulama of Sunnah wal Jama'ah might think, would people who go to hell after they punished for millenniums and so on, would Allah at the end let them vanish and burn and die? Some said yes. At the end, Allah will let the kuffar vanish. After they fulfill their punishment, there will be no more. Majority of Sunnah Jama'ah say, Allah says forever. You have group of Muslims go for heaven forever, they're going to be in paradise. A group of kuffar will go for hell forever. Group of believers that their sins outweigh their good deeds and they exhausted every mean of expiation. They'll be punished temporarily in hellfire, whatever Allah assign, and they'll eventually go to Jannah. This is the main creed. So the only decision you find, okay, how about that group that's going to stay forever? Is it ever, or ever for a limited time? That's the only part that they had some argument about. But it's settled. Ijtihad, yes, there are schools of thoughts. You have some of the Sahaba talking about this is 2 rak'ah or 4 rak'ah. The horses, where you pay taxes on horses, you don't pay taxes on horses, and stuff like this. Minor details. So, 2 different issues. Yes, madam.
How about like if Allah has a hand or not?
Yes. Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, all of them agree. If Allah described himself as a hand, it's a hand, but you cannot say like our hand. You cannot say this. If Allah says, we know He's got a hand because Allah said, Yadullahi fawqa aydihim, the hand of Allah on top of their hands. We know from the hadith, Al-qulubu bayna usba'ayni min asabi' ar-Rahman. Our hearts are controlled by 2 fingers of the most merciful. So He has fingers, He has a hand, but nothing like us. We cannot imagine Allah. Allah is the source of every power, every material things. He's beyond our imagination. Yes, brother.
So the groups that have disagreements on these issues, and like there's no shortage of like Aqidah disagreements.
Yeah.
You just don't consider them Ahlul Sunnah wal
Yeah. This is, we say in that part they're not Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. The only time a person considered from not Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, if they're so far away, their mistakes are so grave, or the way of them reaching the truth is different from Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. But yes, you'll find sometimes a person from Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, in 1 matter or 2 matters, he made a mistake. He still considered Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah except in this matter. And we give an example like Imam al-Nawawi. Imam al-Nawawi considered one of the ulama of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. But in his book, when he says that when Allah descends to the first heaven, in the last third of the night, to be close to his worshippers and grant them mercy and forgiveness and so on, he says his mercy descends. Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah say Allah descends in a way that befits him, we don't know how. That's it. That's the only thing. So Imam al-Nawawi considered Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah except in that matter. So this is where the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah are accurate and fair. Just because you disagree with them in one matter doesn't declare you outside of that group. Imam Shafi'i, we mentioned it last time, the difference between Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah and Ahlul Buddha. In one matter, you disagree with them, they declare you kafir, munafiq, fasiq, right away they cast you out, you either be prisoned or killed. Ahlul Jama'ah say no, أخطأ في هذه. He's wrong in this matter. That's it. So the first of the innovations that happened at the time of the Sahaba was takfir bil-dhunub. That if somebody committed a major sin, is he considered a kafir? Ahlul Sunnah say no. A person can be a believer and he drinks alcohol. He's committing a sin. This is kabira. He needs to repent from it, or if he worthy of punishment, be punished. But he's still a Muslim. If he dies, he's buried with the Muslims. He can inherit from Muslims. Muslims can inherit from him, and so on. So they would not declare anybody committing a kabira as a kafir unless he said it is halal, it is permissible. I don't care about the rules of Allah. Alcohol is good. The people who drank alcohol at times of Sahaba were alcoholics. There are people who used to drink alcohol before. The prohibition of alcohol came. They tried to stop it. They couldn't. And nowadays, our studies tell us, genetically, you have up to 30% of the population. If they drink once, they become alcoholic. They have a genetic mutation, metabolism of alcohol, where they can be hooked to it, become alcoholic. You see alcoholic, the AA meetings, the first thing they announce, somebody who have quit drinking, been sober for 20 years. My name's so-and-so, I am an alcoholic. I haven't drank for 20 years. Once they're an alcoholic, they're always an alcoholic. They can, at any time, be hooked back into it. And that's the time of Sahaba. Some of them were alcoholics. They stopped, they fight it, they tried their best not to drink. Some were able to win that fight, some they couldn't. So every now and then you find one, but not the prominent Sahaba, not the good pious ones. Their faith helped them to go through it. But there's some of the Sahaba, there was one of them, he will be brought to Rasulullah. He ordered him be beaten with shoes and so on as a punishment. And he happened several times. So one person say, La'anahullah. May Allah curse him out of his mercy. How many times they bring him for punishment for alcoholism, being drunk in public? So I said, don't curse him. He loves Allah and His Messenger. So he has the faith in his heart, but that demon of alcoholism is overcoming him. He's genetically defective. He's trying his best. So that's the difference. Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah لا يكفر بالكبائر إذا لم يستحلها.
الناس اللي يقولوا ربنا يقول الله على العرش استوى. لكن في ناس يقولوا الله موجود في كل مكان. الله ما موجود في السماء. جماعة هذا نكفر ولا؟
يقول هذا القول كفر لكن صاحبه لا يكفر. إذا هم اختلفوا في 3 أقوال. أهل وحدة الوجود يقول الله في كل مكان، هذا كفر. أهل السنة والجماعة وحتى الأشاعرة والماتريدية كلهم يقولون هذا القول كفر. القول الذي اختلفوا فيه الأشاعرة والماتريدية يقول الله لا يحده زمان ولا مكان، فهو لا فوق ولا تحت ولا داخل ولا خارج، نفوا عن الله المكان والزمان فقط. أهل السنة والجماعة يقول نثبت لله ما أثبته لنفسه، نقول هو الرحمن عرش استوى في السماء من غير كيفية، لا نعلم الكيفية. So he was asking about the belief, some people about the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is His presence physically where He is? See, Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah say we describe him the way he described himself. He's up high beyond his creation. He's on the throne in a way that befits him, doesn't resemble any creatures. This is the creed of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. You have a group of Mu'tazila and then Al-Asha'ira wal Mutiridiyya. They declared you cannot ascribe a place, a direction, or a time to Allah. That means you resemble his creatures. So they say he's not on the throne, he's not up, he's not down, he's not in, he's not out. That's their way of interpreting him, trying to say he's not like his creatures. But then any ayah, any hadith reveals it means something else. Allah is the owner of the throne. He overpowers the throne. Or when he descends the first heaven, this is his mercy that descends. And as Sunnah said, if Allah says descend, he descends. But in a way it befits him. Not like other creature, you leave one place, you go another place. And then another place will be on top of you. So if Allah in the first heaven means the second and third and seventh heaven on top of him. And so no. Allah does it in a way that befits him. There is always 1/3 of the night somewhere on earth. We know now earth is round and the sun, that the way it rotates it. There is one place. So how is that happening? Allah knows. We're talking about things that we don't know about. Why should we argue about it? It's Allah's mercy. Or what we need to know from that, when you make your prayer the last third of the night, Allah is close to you. He responds to your supplication. He'll do it. That's all what you need to know. Allah is beyond our imagination. What difference does it make to you about things you cannot understand and has no consequences to you? This is the thing. So stick with the straight belief, with the text. You say, it is as it is. The details of it, Allah knows about that details. And then you have the third group, the extremist group that say Allah is everywhere. The problem here, if you say Allah is everywhere with his knowledge, hearing, and power, this is correct. Physically, this is wrong. Allah cannot be in a bathroom. He cannot be in a pig. He cannot be in anything that's dirty and so on. Yes, Allah physically is not everywhere. In his knowledge, his hearing, his vision, his power, he's with us. He's closer to us than our own jugular vein. But physically, he's beyond all his creatures. The problem is if somebody believes Allah is everywhere, that means wherever you worship Allah. And you have some of people, some of the Sufis, Ahl Wahdat al-Wujud, they say when Pharaoh said, Ana Rabbukum al-A'la, he was right because Allah is in him. That those who worship the cow was right because Allah in the cow. The idol worshippers were right because the idol, Allah in that idol. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. So, Wahdat al-Wujud, this is kufr. You won't find anybody that claims he's following any kind of sunnah say Wahdat al-Wujud. This is totally wrong. So the only disagreement is about, would you ascribe the same things Allah ascribed himself literally and say, but the meaning and the how is up to Allah? Or you say it cannot be and you find a different meaning for it. That's the only disagreement. They're still considered Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, but you say Asha'ira khalafu Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah fi hadi. So you say Asha'ira are wrong when it comes to Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah in that matter. But the 95% of other beliefs, they are Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. In their matter, their intention was to glorify Allah from resembling any of his creatures. That's why they say, I cannot ascribe a place or a direction for Allah. And the Sunnah wal Jama'ah said, Rasulullah asked that little girl, where's Allah? She pointed up. He said, she's a believer. So for us, if somebody asks, where Allah? You point up. It doesn't mean in this roof. It doesn't mean the people in New Zealand have to point down for them to go through earth, so they will be in my same direction. Allah is up beyond his creatures. There's no creature that can support Allah or include Allah. Allah is beyond all of that. Oh, that's all what we need to know. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. We know that al-kursi, the footstep of the throne, is bigger than heavens and earth. If you take heavens and earth, the 7 heavens, with the earth, with everything in it, throw it in the kursi, it's like you have a big qas'a, big pot or tray, and you throw a little ring in it. This is the whole universe for the footstep of the throne. So we're talking about something beyond our meaning. Allah Akbar. Allah is bigger than everything. How are you going to imagine this? So don't go there. So we believe what Allah has told us believe. How would we know that? Because Rasulullah had told us that. That the example of the seven heaven with earth with everything in it is like a ring. You throw it. There's one hadith like you throw it in a desert. So it's like little thing, just not the footstep. Al-kursi. The kursi min al-arsh. Al-arsh is bigger than the kursi. So it's beyond imagination. So we don't need to go there. We say Allah is beyond all of that. We know about Him, what He told us. وَلَا يُحِيطُونَ بِعِلْمِهِ إِلَّا بِمَا شَاءَ. The only thing we know about Allah is what He wished to tell us. And we stop there. This is Aqidat Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Put your mind in ease. I'm given this knowledge, I don't need it. I cannot comprehend it. So why should I go there? And that's where Ahlul Bid'ah start with. They're going to things that are beyond their ability or beyond what they're permitted to know, and they started using their own thoughts, and everybody has their own way. And they gradually starting deviating until they reach a point, either creating their own religion or abandoning all faith. At the end, it doesn't make logic for them, and then they stop believing in anything. And for them, I don't know how it started. There's probably no creator. Things evolved in its own. I live, I die, it's the same. When I die, I become dust like everything else. I'm as good as the dinosaurs that were roaming Earth millions of years ago. That's when people lose their faith. We as believers, no, Allah did not create anything in vain. Everything had a purpose. Before He created everything, He knew every detail about everything happened. He has a plan for everything. And each one of us will go to the place that he deserves. We ask Allah that since He's showing us this place, this faith, and we are coming to worship Him, that we are among the blessed that Allah will choose for us to go to heaven. We have to earn our place there by keeping till the last minute, keeping our faith, keeping our good deeds, and asking for mercy and forgiveness. That's as simple as can be. So inshallah we'll stop here. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
جزاك الله خير.